Welcome to the 153rd broadcast of the T-Row Show. It's your host, Keith. I got John with me.
Good morning, folks.
This is going to be a little bit of a different type of show today because it's going to be an extension of the one we did last time. But you're going to get some information today that I think everybody needs to hear. It does apply to both sides of the coin. Since we put out all of our documents on the Reign of the Heavens Society post, and people get really confused about the legal relationship between the Reign of the Heavens and the United States of America, and they get it all confused. We're not going to go over that today, but these were some of the notices that we put out last night, just so people understand that we've been doing this for a very long time. And this is why we have a lot of people that know about us within the United States and everything else. And they know who we are. So, it says decided to republish these essential documents that others have seemed to miss over the years. Okay, so you can go on Scribd. We used to use that 2012 and 13 a lot before we had the newspaper. And it is a publishing website. And it's 10 to 12 million readers. And then the National Great Registry, we put that here. And here's some of them. We've got some of the mending the Great Seal and its chain of title. This goes into Benjamin Franklin's notes and all that to tell you what the original seal was for the Confederacy. And then we just amended it and moved on through. So the new Declaration of Independence is amended from 2012. The older one was down here, Declaration of Independence from 2012. Declaration of Rights, a resident and American national, is a Declaration of Rights. This is for the United States of America itself. People really like this one. It's pretty cool. Declaration of Sovereignty. Then we have the Declaration of Independence there, and then Social Compact as amended from 2010, all the way back. So this was all done correctly. It was the metes and bounds that were claimed. And then the Social Compact came next, and then we started amending a constitution, and then you had your country back. It was kind of simple. There was a few bumps and bruises we went through. Really learned what it's like to be under the direct control of Democrats and the socialists and communists. As the communist Democrats, learned firsthand what it's like to be around them. It's not fun, believe me. If you don't agree with them, they kill you or try to. They will mark you as a political dissident and then try to work the legal system to murder you. That's how they operate, and they keep harassing you and pushing you to try to get you to do something violent. They do it constantly. This is done on a local level. A lot of people wouldn't see this. I remember walking down a little mini mall. And there was one of them deputy sheriffs that were driving right next to me, walking. He was just following me right there, just harassing the crap out of me is what he's doing. He's just sitting there going real slow, as I'm walking. It was so bad that one of the shop owners came out and says, "What the hell's up his ass? What's wrong with him?" So if people were seeing what was going on, every time you show up to a store or something, like 5 or 6 of them would show up. Oh, we're just going to get something to eat. Sure you are. Let's get the thumbs up there. Sure you are. That's exactly what you've done. So that's what being a part of a democratic, socialist, communist situation is. And if anybody has gone through that gang stalking thing and all that, it's a horrifying and very stressful situation when you have the very people that have professed that they protect you that have turned against you and try to kill you or try to murder you. That's a very weird situation to be in. And so it's not just a white or black thing. It's not a color thing. It's everywhere. It's a political thing. Okay. So these are some of the things that we had to do. It says the states are failed states that cannot maintain their sovereignty, so they are trust territories of the United States of America. These are situations. This is all true. Every bit of this is done and has been done since when, John? 2011.
We actually started in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, all the way
Right. The
through
initial
15.
claim came in
Yep.
2009. Actually, it was in
Yep.
November, December, November. I remember that
Yep.
part.
Well, I didn't come in until November 11. So, excuse me, November 10. And
Right.
that's the reason I started at 10.
Okay. Um, says the inhabitants are entitled to a nationality. If you haven't claimed a nationality and done an oath and affirmation to your country, you don't have a nationality. You can't just arbitrarily claim it. You have to have somebody. It has to be done correctly. So when people are just automatically coming out and saying I'm an American national, and and this is the funny part. In the United States, in the U.S., they do have what they call an American national uh, nationality type situation. It's not what you think it is, but whatever. We're not going to get into that. But it is spelled American, upper and lowercase American, and then lowercase national, lowercase n. Folks, we're the ones that changed the n from lowercase to uppercase. We did that. I remember the day we discussed it. I believe John does too.
Very, very well, I remember.
We were discussing it in committee.
Yep.
So uh, we did that. Well, we put that out there. 6 months later, everybody started claiming it, and then started brushing us off. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. It's been around for a long time. Well, yeah, American National lowercase n has been around a long time, but not the uppercase n. We did that, and we put it into the our notes and things like that. So I don't get why people believe it's okay. They come in and then they just arbitrarily they see it and they go, they arbitrarily, I'm American national. No, you're not. No, you're not. You haven't claimed a nationality. You're not even close. So you got to go through a process, and there's a reason why it's all there, and it's all through the T Row show and everything else as to why. But you can't sit and just arbitrarily claim something. That'd be like saying, um, uh, uh, you wake up one day and go, I'm a Mexican national, and then everybody goes, what? I'm a Mexican national. I just put it on. I put it on a piece of paper, and I said I was a Mexican national under a declaration. But does Mexico know about this? And it's like somebody coming out and saying, "Oh, I'm Moor. I'm a Moorish. I'm Moor." Does Morocco know about this? That you're a Moor? You're claiming a nationality or something? You can't just put it on a piece of paper under some stupid declaration and just declare it and say it's real. Does Morocco know about this? Does Mexico know about this? You can't claim to be a Canadian citizen if Canada doesn't know about it. And then you have to get to their government and all that stuff, going through the whole process called naturalization. So if you haven't been naturalized, you don't have it. And we've told people this, I don't know how many times. And doing some stupid baby deed is not going to do it. Or some other stupid crap that somebody goes through or makes up and everything and says, okay, you're this. No, not true. Okay, so this show's going to be an extension of the last show we did, which is dealing with a driver's license. And we stated that if you do have a driver's license, that is a membership card to the Communist Party. Now we're going to show you why, where there's no way that anybody can get around this. And I always like to make arguments and make positions to where it settles the issue. That's always a lot of fun to take care of these situations. At first, I've been going through this. I don't know how long have you been going through this, John? What? How long has it been since you had a driver's license?
I got rid of mine in 92.
92. Okay. I got rid of mine in I think it was 96, 95 or 96. And people have been harassing the crap out of me. Why don't you just go get a driver's license? It's easy, it makes sense, and blah blah blah. But there's something that bothered me about it, and now I know that I was right. I haven't had one for a long time, and now I know I'm right. So all you guys that are out there, okay, and you're claiming the right to travel and all this other kind of stuff, that's fine if you want to make that claim. All right, it's been well trashed by the communists on the right to travel. Okay, but there's a guy that wrote this deal. It says the essay was published by Dr. Root's permission. It appeared first as the orphaned right. He said the right to travel by automobile 1890 to 1950 at Oklahoma City University Law Review. Okay, Dr. Roots can be reached at this website and at rogerroots.com. Now you get into the summary. I'm not going to read this whole thing. Okay, this thing is long. See, it goes on and on and on and on. All right, I will leave you the link to it, and you can go read it if you want. But really, what it comes down to, I'll give you an idea. It says here, driving an automobile is a privilege, not a right. According to the prevailing laws of every jurisdiction of the United States. Now, how did it go from a right to a privilege? That's the interesting part. It says a traveler on foot had the same right to use any public highway as the operator of an automobile or any other vehicle. Chicago was one of the first large cities to require motor vehicle registration, and Chicago Automobile Club voiced a strong protest against the requirement that numbered license plates to be displayed. Even though the city initially allowed motorists to select their own numbers and charged a fee of only $3. Okay, Farson, however, never had a complete support of his club. Okay, so back in that day, there were a lot of auto clubs, and the auto clubs were used to, that's where you uh, re- registered your vehicle with the auto club. Believe it or not, it's a private membership association. It wasn't done by the state. Then they started in the cities for only $3, and then it went on from there. Okay, so there's basically private auto clubs that were doing it long time ago. And that was recognized by the Secretary of State because the auto club was registered with the Secretary of State of that state to do business in that state. And this was so that people, if they hit somebody, they couldn't take off and not, tell anybody who they were. That was going on a lot back then. And this goes on, goes into the roads, what was really going on, the fight between the courts repeatedly wrote the individual's right to travel by automobile and struck down regulations aimed at limiting the liberties of automobile drivers on constitutional grounds. With the passage of time, however, automobile regulators generally prevailed in legislative halls and courtrooms. Okay, now, who are the automobile regulators? That was the whole thing. Who are these guys? It was in general in this, but the way that this was written by Roger Roots, he was a lawyer. The way it was written by him is that he tells you how it's done or how it was done, but not necessarily tells you directly. So that's why it's a long read. That's the way a lot of uh, uh, writers do that, so they don't get on the radar. It said, today the public has accepted a degree of travel regulation, which would have seemed almost tyrannical in the 19th century Americans. Okay, so the early Americans, they all knew about right to travel. What are you talking about? I can get on that road anytime I want. And I can get on there with anything I want. And that's exactly how it operated. Okay, so this paper analyzes the change in common law and suggests that even if most Americans are unaware of it, the change represents a substantial loss in liberty. And that's absolutely true. Okay, now, when you read this whole thing, you're probably going to come up to the same conclusion I did. The right to travel has nothing to do with the driver's license. Whether it's a privilege or a right doesn't really matter. What it's all about and who these automobile regulators were was the Communist Party. What they were doing was they were moving towards, and anybody that claims to they have a right to travel is a sovereign citizen domestic terrorist, right? They don't believe that they're subject to federal laws and blah blah blah, all that stuff. But really, what it's about is about regulation of private property. They want to regulate your property. That's what communists do. So when you register your vehicle with them, with that regulatory system, they say driving a privilege or driving is a privilege. Because why? To drive their car is a privilege. So they want to give your car to the state and then regulate it when it's your actual private property. But this is classic the way the communists operate. They pin all the liability on you and have you insure their property. That's how this system works. And that's a communist system. When a state has the right to regulate private property, meaning property privately owned by somebody else, that is communism. That's where the line is drawn, right there. That's where you draw the line in the sand. They want to regulate public roads and crap all they want, whatever, doesn't matter. And then take care of the public roads and all that. That's fine. That's what they're supposed to do. But when they cross that line of regulating private property, which is where it started with the driver's license, that's where they cross the line, turn themselves into communists. The communists knew this. And even the US Congress knew this. It was called the Communist Control Act of 1954. And it was very specific in its wording, and I'll show you what that is in a minute. So, folks, when you have a driver's license, you're saying, okay, it's okay. I agree with the communist. I am now a communist, and I will abide by the communist rule over my private property. That's how it operates. They don't tell you that. They say they completely change the argument and turn it from it's a right to travel, which was widely known back in the early 1900s and the 1800s, and was widely recognized. You can't regulate my private property, and I have the right to use the public roads. So kiss my ass, go away. But those communists kept getting in there and kept getting in there. Now, what are those communists? Oh, I don't know, the Lawyers Guild that works very closely today with the American Bar Association, wherein every lawyer and every judge is a communist and a part of that communist rule. And that's why you also have police unions that are communist. Why? Because a lawyer consistently works towards regulating private property all the time. So does a judge, and so does a police officer. When it's literally, and then they're very hypocritical, because I believe in their eyes, a sovereign citizen is somebody that says they don't believe they're subject to federal law. Okay, you don't believe you're subject to federal law. Fair enough. And they pull this all the time. They pull this out of their hat. And but I think they fail to realize that there's a Communist Control Act right here. Then they go, oh, well, that act was this, this, and this, and the Communist Control Act of 1954. It's right here. And they are saying, there's the United States Statute of Laws, Public Law 637. And under this act right here, which happens to be codified here in Title 50, USC 844, the SPLC is not allowed to exist. Neither is the Lawyers Guild. This would also pull you out of the American Bar Association, too. You guys aren't allowed to exist if you operate. See, you respect federal law, right? You believe you're subject to federal law, don't you, Mr. Lawyer, Mr. Judge, and Mr. Police Officer? You're not one of those sovereign citizens, are you? Self-professed sovereign citizens? You don't think you're sovereign, do you? Or do you? Or are you a privileged class of people that you think that law doesn't apply to you? Which is nothing more than, oh, that's what you describe as a sovereign citizen, don't you? Mr. Lawyer? Right here, it says here the 1950s Communist Control Act of 1954, which is still in full force and effect today. It was never overturned by anyone. So that means you have to disband. That means all your police unions, you guys have to remove yourselves as a union. Your union has to go away. All that needs to be disbanded, gone, disillusioned. SPLC, sorry guys, you got to go. And you have to do it under self-regulation because you know that you're subject to that federal law. Since you are subject to the federal law, if that's the case, then you got to go, which means that you got to pay back all the people that gave you money because you lied to them and told them that you were not a communist organization, but you are a communist organization because anybody that believes that their private property must not be regulated by the state, you would harass the crap out of them like no one has ever harassed them before. You would label them hate groups and domestic terrorists and everything else. So if that's the case, you are a communist organization. You'll know a man by his works, and you'll know an organization by how they operate. Does that mean the DOJ, since the DOJ says, hey, we love SPLC, they're a great communist organization, does that mean DOJ is a communist organization? Under civil forfeiture that regulates private property? I don't know. Did you guys go commie against your own laws? Since you got, obviously, everybody thinks you're a country, not a corporation. Is that true? Does that mean that you guys are not subject to a control act, or do you pick and choose the laws that you want to follow? Like all these dreadful dreadful sovereign citizens. Is that true? So to you guys, the Communist Control Act of 1954 just doesn't exist. And since your whole Democratic Party basically joined, this is what they say. Okay, and they believe that there's you guys. I guess you guys believe there's a government of the United States too, right? So that's why everybody's subject to it. It says the Congress hereby finds and declares that the Communist Party of the United States, although purportedly a political party, is a fact and instrumentality of a conspiracy to overthrow the government of the United States. So does that mean that anybody that fights for the state to not regulate their private property is therefore a non-communist and therefore a sovereign citizen domestic terrorist and therefore should go onto the hate list, the racist hate list? Is that true? Huh. So I guess maybe SPLC, the communist organization, is running in a conspiracy to overthrow the government of the United States. I mean, I still want to see where the government of the United States is, but and where its social compact is, and its Declaration of Sovereignty, and all these other things. But we'll just overlook that right now. It constitutes an authoritarian dictatorship within a republic. Yes, it does. That's exactly what it does. That's why SPLC can just do whatever the hell it wants when it wants because it's under an authoritarian dictatorship, right? Demanding for itself rights and privileges according to political parties, but denying to all others liberties guaranteed by the Constitution. That's pretty much what SPLC does. And the Lawyers Guild and American Bar Association. So, unlike political parties, which involve their policies and programs through public means by the reconciliation of a wide variety of individual views and submit those policies and programs to the electorate at large for approval or disapproval. The policies and programs of the Communist Party are secretly prescribed for it by foreign leaders of World Communist Movement. Now, we've talked about the World Communist Movement. What is that? A revolutionary communist movement to put in a totalitarian dictatorship everywhere. So, basically, what they said, you can read this by just going and looking it up. We can go on the Communist Party of the United States or any successors of such party. I should basically call that the Democratic Party. Okay, that would be the Democratic Party of the United States.
I believe that's a Democratic Socialist Party.
Yeah. Yeah, today, not the Communist Party of the United States. I think the Communist Party of the United States still exists, or any successors of such party, regardless of assumed name, whose object or purpose is to overthrow the government of the United States or the government of any state, territory, district, or possession thereof, or any government of any political subdivision therein, by force and violence, are not entitled to any rights, privileges, and immunities attendant upon legal bodies created under the jurisdiction laws of the United States or any political subdivision thereof. And whatever rights, privileges, and immunities which have heretofore been granted to said party or any subsidiary organization by reason of the laws of the United States or any political subdivision thereof are hereby terminated. Wonder why that is. Okay, so here it is. Holding that doctrine, its role as the agency of hostile foreign power renders its existence a clear and present and continuing danger to the security of the United States. It is the means whereby individuals are seduced into the service of the world communist movement. Isn't that what's going on, folks? The world communist movement, trained to do its bidding. Ilhan Omar. And directed and controlled. AOC, trained to do its bidding. Bernie Sanders, trained to do its bidding. Pelosi. And directed and controlled at the conspiratorial performance of their revolutionary services. Therefore, the Communist Party should be outlawed. It is outlawed, folks. It is completely outlawed, and every one of the people that are involved in it today are openly saying that they're communist. The judges and lawyers are openly saying that they're communist. And it's been outlawed by, the company. To us, it's the company. But to you, that would be considered the law. Those that are listening. Can this law be used? Absolutely can be used in their system, and as far as the military is concerned. Because in Title 50, that is military title, it is the military's job to go in and get these boogers and get them out of here. This is no longer political. Okie dokie. So, U.S. subchapter, communist control. Now, since the Communist Party of the United States, this is basically the same writing. It's the Communist Control Act, and this is Title 50. This means that every policy that was ever written to regulate private property, like how much water you can get if you can't collect rainwater, um, how much food you can grow, you can't have a garden, all these things. That's all communism. And the ones that wrote the policy can be arrested. It's been outlawed. Every one of them can be arrested and thrown in jail for being a part of the Communist Party. Why is it that Antifa is still around, and why is it that Antifa is protecting the Lawyers Guild? That's just perplexing to me. Now, you might want to watch out for Alex Jones, because I've noticed that him and most of his parties are basically creating a group of crybabies. They all cry about what a victim they are, and they don't actually do anything about it. So, might want to watch the way that they're doing that, because they are turning everybody into victims. And that's kind of been the whole thing about their Republican Party, their private company. That's been their whole thing. See, we get abused, and we just don't. They're always doing that. They never fight back. They're just kind of wussy, and they get abused all the time to show everybody for public sympathy. That's basically what they've turned into. They've been doing it for a long time. It's just kind of the Alex Jones show is getting into it too, and that's how they're doing it. They're always doing it so to piss you off. But why don't y'all do anything about it? Well, they're never going to, really. They just kind of sit there and kind of whiny. However, people do have the right to do this. This is under their titles. So if you are in fact a citizen of the United States, you should be able to use this. Now, whether you actually can or not, who knows? Well, that remains to be seen. Because if you can't, that kind of proves our point that there's no social compact that nobody signed, and that you're actually not a part of the United States at all. So either way, on this whole deal, the government of the United States of America wins. Either way you go. So you notice that everybody gets upset when you call them communists, but they actually are communists. The reason why they get upset is because they're worried about this little deal, the 50 USC 841. Let's see how many communists are sitting in the FBI. Guaranteed, the FBI won't do a thing about this. We're gonna be proven correctly on that. Why? Because the FBI's gone commie. They regulate private property. The dividing line is a regulation of private property. That's that dividing line. Having a driver's license or not having a driver's license doesn't mean that you hit less cars or more cars. It doesn't mean shit, other than you are giving money to the Communist Party that created the whole system. Anything you want to say, John?
Not at this time, Keith. You're doing fine.
All right.
You are fading out occasionally, but
That's
other than
just
that, you're doing,
connections. That's all. Sorry about that.
yeah, I know you're. Other than that, you're doing real good.
Okie dokie. So if that's the case, all right. So the Communist Party of the United States, this is all the same thing. Application or determination by jury of membership in the Communist Party, participation and knowledge of purpose. Here we go again with the connection. Okay, so just so everybody knows, in determining membership and participation in the Communist Party or any other organization defined in this act or knowledge of the purpose or objective of such party organization, and by the way, once this was created, there were over 28,000 federal marshals that were created. I think it was under J. Edgar Hoover, and they went around the whole country and started grabbing communists from all over the country, and it was true. They were all over the place, and they're worse today. Defining this act of knowledge. All right, so the jury, under instructions from the court, shall consider evidence if presented as to whether the accused person he has been listed in his knowledge as a member of any book, in any book, or any of the list, records, correspondence, or any other document of the organization. Well, you can start with the Declaration of Interdependence of 1976. Let's go there. That'll tell you who the commie is. All right. Has made financial contribution to the organization in dues, assessments, loans, or any other form. That's all that would be all the people that have given a financial contribution to the Democratic Party today, once they announced who they were. And once and anybody that works with and or is a membership in the American Bar Association or any other association associated with that association, because they have been known and are all known to be working with the Lawyers Guild, which is the bulwark of the Communist Party. Go look it up. Okay, he has made himself subject to the discipline of the organization in any form whatsoever. Oh, that would be anybody that wants to regulate privately owned property or get rid of the privately owned property. Okay, has executed orders, plans, or directives of any kind of the organization. That would be, judges that want to regulate your private property, or anybody who has fined you for denying you self-regulation of your own property.
Yes, and all the legislators up there
That's right.
That wrote the laws in the beginning.
Has acted as an agent, courier, messenger, correspondent, organizer, or any other capacity on behalf of the organization. Has conferred with officers or other members of the organization on behalf of any plan or enterprise of the organization. Has been accepted to his knowledge as an officer or member of the organization. That would be pretty much every union that's pushing non-private property regulation or ownership, or has one to be called upon the services by other officers or members of the organization. Has written, spoken, or any other way communicated by signal, semaphore, sign, or any other form of communication, orders, directives, or plans of the organization. Let's try every movie star on Twitter. Has prepared documents, pamphlets, leaflets, books, or any other type of publication in behalf of the objectives and purposes of the organization. Let's talk about the Antifa handbook. Has mailed, shipped, circulated, distributed, delivered, or in any other way sent or delivered to others material or propaganda of any kind on behalf of the organization. That would be Antifa. just go talk to them. That means you got to go through all of the universities and clean them the hell out. Has advised, counseled, or any other way imparted information, suggestions, recommendations to officers or members of the organization or anyone else on behalf of the objectives or the organization. You got to want to try the whole Democratic Party there. Has indicated by word, action, conduct, writing, or any other way a willingness to carry out any manner and in any degree in plans, designs, objectives, or purposes of the organization. Yeah, that would be everything that is written in Congress today.
The House, the Senate, the Congress, every one of them.
As any other way participate in the activities, planning, actions, objectives, or purposes of the organization. You see, folks, when we did what we did, as far as the government of the United States of America, it was not to get rid of the United States. It was to work in parallel with them. So we didn't have any any will to overthrow them. Why would we? It's the way it works. It's not a big deal. But here's the problem.
Who would
What?
want to take over a mess like that?
Oh, hell yeah. And who would want the debt in it? It was run up by the Communist Party. No way in hell are we taking that. That's tainted money. Okay? So basically, what did we just describe? Not us, in Title 50. This is actually in the Communist Control Act also. What did we just describe, folks? Everything you live under today. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, they're all doing the same thing. They're all communist. And it's illegal to be a communist. It's outlawed. Anybody coming out saying, hey, we're communists, great. Get up against the wall there, and we're going to go ahead and deport your ass anywhere except for here. Because we're not going to fill jails with all you morons. We're going to just deport you. We might send you to another country and call you immigrants. How about that? Y'all can immigrate. You can be poor immigrants in a boat somewhere. Does everybody here get the point now? That's listening to this. This is today. You live in a communist country. Why do you think the UN says it's okay or thinks it's okay to go ahead and start setting up all this crap around the country? Why are there blue helmets in a lot of areas? It's because they're all set up. You've all agreed. I think you trashed my name, trashed John, and trashed a lot of other people that said, we're not getting your driver's license because not a good idea. And today we're saying, you're not regulating our private property. Actually, folks, me and John and many, many others that have basically said, there's something wrong with that. I'm not going to do it. I don't know why. I'm not going to do it, but I'm not going to do it. There's something ain't right about that. I don't know why. Today we're vindicated. We were right the whole time. The whole time. So all you guys that were out there bashing us and everything else, you just lost your country because you turned into a communist. You gave up private property rights, which dissolved your state. That means it's no longer a functioning state. States can't own property. They can regulate territory, but they can't own property. You see how that works, folks? That's why communism is illegal. Because it dissolves the state. That's the way it works. We were right. So, wouldn't be bad to get a little apology here and there, but I'm not expecting it, especially from communists. So, everybody who listens to this program, please share this with your friends. Let them know that they are actually living in a communist country and that the state has been dissolved. And therefore, it is the trust territory of the United States of America, because that is where the line of succession and title go back to. We knew that. We knew that way before anybody else did. We knew that when people were still messing around with Tim Turner and thought, we're going to get our republic back with Tim Turner. He's a god. He's a wonderful man, spiritual man. Sure was. Why, he was ripping you off for 50 grand. He was spiritually ripping you off for 50,000. There was a guy that gave him 50,000. They actually the 50,000 that y'all paid for your passport machine. It went overseas. He was given $5 million, told it was stolen. They stole it back, but he told him it was stolen. He took it. That's why he's sitting in jail, folks. I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. Plus, you were actually trying to rip off a company because you thought that company was yours and you thought that Constitution was yours, and it wasn't. So that's why we had to revamp everything and put it back in place. You got to go back to your states, go back to your state's original Constitution. That's why we keep telling you that. Now, if the military is inclined to start cleaning this up, you might want to start there. And the way to identify these guys is they've written anything that would regulate private property and anything like that. Any kind of regulation of private property, those are communists. They need to be exiled from the country, removed. And I don't think we care where they go. They just need to go past the baseline. 12 miles past the baseline, you come back, we'll blow you out of the water. You're going. See ya. Because that's the only way you're going to get your light back. That's the only way, because you're coming back to God. You need to come back to God. You need to bring him back into this country. We have. You need to quit shunning him and quit cowing down to the communists that took him out of your schools and took his commandments off your lawns. You need to stop doing that. You need to ask him for strength, invite him in, turn back to him, because you're nothing without him, and you won't stand up to him, stand up to these cowards, these communist cowards, unless he is there with you. I know that for a fact. It's just my what do you call experience. You need to bring him back to the country. We did. Everybody needs to bring him back. Invite him back in. That's your first step. Then your next step is try to figure out and get a hold of us, and we'll show you how to fix the rest. But first, you got to clean these institutions out. There's a lot less of them than you think. A lot less communist than you think. They like to blame their crap on everybody else. So you got to watch that. You got to watch how they do it. They commit the crime, they blame somebody else and set somebody else up for it. They do it all the time. But it takes them time to do this. And if you move quickly, they won't have the time. So, John, do you agree with uh, exiling all communists from the meets and
Yes,
bounds?
yes, I do. And the people that remain after they're all gone need to take an oath and affirmation to their own state.
That's right.
Because
Start working your states.
without an oath and affirmation, the state doesn't exist. The government in that state doesn't exist because they got no people.
That's right. So we got to get all this moved. We finally got the main opposition out of the way, which were the Pope's agents that were very influential to people that just didn't do any research or look at anything. They just believed what they saw when they saw it. So we got that out of the way. We're moving to phase 2. We've got all the proof of our claim and very clear proof of our claim to this. We are and have the original government in this country, and we are here to help the company remove the infiltration that has been brought in by the world communist revolution. You got a bunch of traitors in your company. It needs to be cleaned up. It's going to take the people to do it. You do have arrest powers under those 2 sections. We'll go ahead and put those 2 sections in the link. Be 3 links below the video, and you'll be able to get all the paperwork and show it for yourself. And it tells you exactly what's going on and how to identify them. Okay, so thanks for listening to the 153rd broadcast of the T-Row Show. We will see you next week.